Welcome to the She Wins podcast. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin, and today I have the wonderful, fabulous Sadie Schiermeyer, Miss Texas 2025. How'd you do it? How'd you win?
That is a great question. You know, I've been trying for a long time. I think what's so sweet is this is the year that I went in knowing that it was probably going to be my last year competing, and yet because of that, I knew that if I didn't walk away with the crown, I really wanted to walk away with fun and good memories and a sisterhood and a community in Texas, since this was also my first year moving back and living here as a full-time adult. And so I think because my goal, while it didn't change entirely, of course I was really working to win, I do think that my perspective shifted. And I think that is, it caused a lot of change in even how I showed up on stage. And I think that that is kind of what pushed me over the edge this year. Yeah.
Okay. So define winning for me if you can.
Winning, I mean, shorthand, achieving your goals.
Right.
And I think with pageantry, that becomes really messy sometimes because, of course, we all have this overarching goal of, yeah, I want to be Miss Texas. I've worked so hard to be Miss Texas for so long. But as I was saying, perspective shift this year. So while I did have a big overarching goal of I want to be Miss Texas, more of that was I really want to build my community and I really want this sisterhood and I really want to have the most fun possible, because at the end of the day, I was either winning or it was an opportunity to say goodbye to something in a good way after having loved it for so many years. And so obviously the result ended up being what I really wanted. But winning for me was as pursuing my goal well and thoroughly.
Oh, I like that. Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the fact that this dream wasn't something that only you have had.
Yes.
So walk me through what it's like to be a legacy. Your mom was Miss Texas in 1994. What's it like?
Oh, my goodness. What's funny is, you know, it's all I've ever known. And so I've really grown up around this organization, and it's something that I've always loved, even when competing myself was not in the picture, you know, as a child or before I started competing as a teen. This was always an organization that I came, and there were the most positive, amazing role models and women that were encouraging, that gave me an example of what it meant to be ambitious and driven in whatever field, not just pageantry. And so it was kind of sweet and funny to turn around as a teenager, and it was actually my friend, not my mom's friend, that convinced me to compete. Because I went to high school with London Hibbs, who went on to win the national title. And so while I always admired this organization, I had a very interesting perspective of this organization as a kid. It wasn't until I saw a peer of mine really fight to make an impact and fight to use her voice that I recognized, oh, I can have that power too. It's not just something to look up to.
Want to do it because your mom did?
Yes and no. I mean, for the longest time as a child, I think what's so funny is having to make the flip of Miss Texas was always this woman that was older than me that I looked up to. And so it was hard to make that mental transition of, well, I could be that now. And so I always was drawn to the performance aspect of it. And, of course, I loved the gowns and the crown and all the girly fun things. But it took me seeing a peer doing it to recognize, oh, there's power in this. And it's power that, yes, I have, but I can grow in. This is a platform that I can use and build. And so that was kind of the flipping point that helped me decide to compete as a teenager. And then, you know, after deciding to compete, navigating what does it look like for me to have my own reputation and personality and relationship with all of these people in an organization that has known me since before I was born, essentially.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about who you are. So those people who only know the crown, the sash, the legacy, who are you really?
Well, of course, the pageant answer in that is, you know, I'm an advocate and I'm a friend and I'm a role model. And I think those are things that were really born and honed out of my personality in real life. I'll just throw some fun things out about myself. I love children. Fun fact for viewers, one of your good friends was my nanny mom that I've worked for the past several months. So big fan of children, big heart for children. I the advocacy piece comes out of a years-long struggle that I had with my mental and physical health. I actually developed and fortunately overcame an eating disorder as a teenager. And so that definitely shaped the way that not only I experienced myself in my own life, but it did shape my relationship with others. And having cared so much about other people as somebody who cares about children and cares deeply and is very deeply empathetic, I think that the Miss Texas organization and Miss America opportunity has given me the platform to turn those things, again, into something of power, into something that I can take actionable steps to make a change in my community and in my life, and turn my story into one of advocacy. So, long-winded response, but I think what's cool is I've really been able to bring my authentic self into pageantry. I don't feel like Sadie Schiermeyer is different than Sadie Miss Texas.
No, and I've known you for a little while.
Yes, you've known me. I did my first interview when I was kind of towing the line of, do I want to compete in pageants? I remember one time that my mom and I met with you, because I'm going to throw my mom under the bus for a second. She hated interview. She was like, that was her. I obviously have never heard her do an interview, and she was very trained being Miss Texas, so now she's great at it. But she always said that interview was her struggle spot. And so she was nervous when I decided I wanted to compete. I was a dancer. We didn't talk as much in that sport or in that field.
You express emotions through movement.
Exactly. So she was like, let me take you to Heather. We'll see. And I have a vivid memory. You had me standing in the room, and you and Mom were sitting behind a table pretending to be judges. And after the first question, y'all both just kind of looked at each other. And in the moment, I was like, I don't know what that means. Was that okay? And afterwards, y'all were like, oh, you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
It was so encouraging.
Okay, you mentioned the eating disorder. You mentioned, struggling. And I remember a smidgen about the story. Obviously, I've talked to you multiple times.
Yeah.
But I want you to share whatever you feel that you can share publicly about that journey. And was that, I always ask everybody a defining moment, but was that a defining moment, or is it something else?
Well, it's hard because I think when I think back to my eating disorder, there was really one main moment that was defining my life, and it was realizing that something was wrong to an extent that I could no longer dig myself out of the hole that I had put myself in.
Right.
So I'll try to summarize it. One thing about me is I'm really horrible at summarizing, so please, by all means.
You can be long-winded.
Okay, there we go.
We have time. I'm giving you permission.
Praise God. Thanks. Anyways, I have struggled with anxiety for my entire life. And what's hard about that is with some people, with all people, anxiety manifests in different ways, right? And so for me, it was very internalized. And all growing up, I think that there was just a lack of conversation around mental health, a lack of education. And so even though there were pretty clear signs in hindsight that as a child I was struggling, my teachers, my parents, my mentors, all were just kind of like, oh, she's high maintenance, or she's perfectionist, or, and it was just a personality thing. Nobody ever recognized it as something that was wrong. And there was a lot of changes happening in my life. We moved states several times. My parents had gotten into a divorce. I think I went to 5 different elementary schools. So
you had a lot going
there was
on.
a lot going on. And so it was never something that was super addressed when I was a kid. And because of that, I kind of just learned to live with it and to try to...
this is just how it is.
Yeah, this is just how it is. Right. And, I figure out my little hacks to get the good grade still, or to still do the good performance. And so it was just never acknowledged. And over time, it was complicated being in the dance world that is super image-driven. And one of the biggest symptoms that I really struggled with anxiety was a lack of appetite.
Yeah.
And... diagnosed just a few years ago, I have pretty bad emetophobia, which is the fear of throwing up. And I hate telling people that because the reaction is always, well, nobody likes throwing up. And I don't know I've yet to figure out how to well communicate. No, I will have an anxiety attack if I feel nauseous. So it is an extra level of...
I get that.
If I feel that way, if eating food is going to make me feel that way, I just won't, because... I don't want to throw up.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Keep going.
So, that is the very messy thing that was happening in my brain quite a bit. And
so then you would just refuse food.
Yes. Or I just wouldn't. It was never, or it didn't start out as a super thought out action. You
Right.
know, it was just easier to not eat a snack before dance. Oh,
Right.
it was just easier to not have dinner because I know I'm performing that night and I know I feel this way when I perform. So at first it was really not.
It's not.
Yeah. Or at least if it was a thought out thing, it wasn't for the intention of my eating disorder. It was more trying to protect myself without any healthy boundaries in my community to protect myself from myself. Right. And so over time, again, it was just one of those things that was kind of normalized. And unfortunately, in the dance community, I received praise for it. When my body started changing, and it was also in the very confusing time of being a teenager, and so my body was going to change one way or another. Nobody noticed what was happening, and my actions were praised, even though that they were very dangerous. So while it didn't start out as being intentional, it kind of went there when I was an older teenager. And it became complicated with pageants. I by no means think that pageants initiated it. As we said, it was entirely something else. But dance and pageants in the performance world and school, really anything that demanded some sort of performance from me, was just tricky to navigate all of this. And I was very fortunate. The defining moment for me was I graduated during COVID. And so I remember I was fresh off of being first runner-up at Miss Texas Teen, or Miss Texas Outstanding Teen, as it used to be called. So there was a lot of eyes and a lot of attention, and there was this humming in my brain of, I know something isn't right, but I don't really know what it is, and I don't really know how to ask for help. Like, it's not...
Like,
at that
something's
point,
wrong, but I don't know what to do about it.
Yes.
Or even articulate it, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is now, side note, this is something that I get to advocate for as Miss Texas, is we don't really have comprehensive health education, whether that's physical health or mental health, in our schools. And if we're not doing that, especially as teenagers, I'm a psych major, and so one of the things that I really care about is the fact that as a teenager, you are looking for direction and you are looking for influence from your peers more than your parents. So if we do not have cultures of wellness in schools, we're failing teenagers.
Oh my gosh.
Especially knowing that social media is now a whole different, like, I had social media, but it is to another degree now. And so I went
if you wind up on the
arts.
wrong side of TikTok, you get all sorts of bad advice.
Goodness. Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole in that conversation. It's terrifying. Even as an adult, like, I find myself in moments just having to turn my phone off and put it away, because it can get really overwhelming. And if you're a teenager and if you do not have the right community to support you in that, it could become very dangerous very quickly. And so the defining moment for me that I am forever grateful for, mind you, I will preface, COVID was not good. Like, no. I do not wish COVID on the world ever. I wish it didn't happen, all the things. But I'm grateful because I remember it was spring meeting for Miss Texas, which, long story short, feels like this whole sleepover pageant weekend where you learn about state week, and it's not a competition, but everybody still has all the fun outfits, all the things. Well, that was put on Zoom, and I remember on this Zoom call learning that Miss Texas was going to be delayed for an entire year, and my graduation was canceled on the exact same day.
Oh.
And in the same week, all of my college classes, I was supposed to be a freshman at OU, Oklahoma University, or University of Oklahoma. But my whole life all of a sudden kind of froze. And I remember sitting there and thinking, if I have to live this way and for a whole nother year until the next Miss Texas, I'm not going to be able to do what I love. Like, I physically don't think I will be strong enough to compete and do something that I enjoy so thoroughly. And so I'm grateful in a way that was kind of taken from me at that time, because it forced me to pause and realize
to focus on yourself.
It forced me to realize that what I am doing right now, I can't articulate it. I don't know how to communicate it or ask for help, but it's not working. And so this goes down a different spiral and story. I ended up taking a gap year instead of going to college right away, and I credit that to being the reason why I didn't end up in a hospital and didn't have to go to eating disorder treatment, is because I was so surrounded by people that loved me and were asking really hard questions. And I know that not everybody who listens to this is a Christian, but I am. And for me, being forced to kind of wrestle with, well, what do you believe about God, made me wrestle with, okay, well, if you believe this, what does that mean about what you believe about yourself? And so I think that year, I always say that God plucked me out of the darkest, hardest season of my life, put me in the safest place possible to really wrestle and ask tough questions. And then I ended up going to Belmont University. And I think it was another weird season and harder season of, I didn't have community at Belmont, and I knew what I believed, but now I have to test it and put it into action. And that was actually when I was officially diagnosed. Before that, I didn't have an official diagnosis. And so that's kind of a long story, but I think that creating that space and giving the hard questions that people can wrestle with is now something that I get super excited about, because I think it's something our culture is failing in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
How do you talk about something so serious? And do you talk about your eating disorder a lot? Or is that something that it's kind of, it depends on the circumstance, and obviously I gave you the freedom too, but is that something you get to talk about much?
Yes and no. It does depend on the circumstance. I recognize that not every single person I talk to will experience an eating disorder themselves, but it is 1 in 10 Americans that experience an eating disorder. And frankly, as somebody, I just graduated in December, and so for a while I was doing advocacy work as a college student. Well, the statistics are even higher in college, and amongst college girls, it's like 1 in 5 or 20%. So it can be really scary. So I do try to talk about it, but if we rewind my story to when I was struggling as a child, when all of those bad habits just kind of started happening before they were intentional, I boil it back down to, if we have proper health education, if we are having good and productive conversations about physical health and mental health, my eating disorder might have been avoided entirely. And so depending on the audience, I try to be very sensitive of, I want to share my story, especially knowing that so many girls, specifically young women and teenage girls, are struggling. I want to be a role model that it is overcomable, that we can have these conversations, we can ask for help, and there doesn't need to be shame there. But at the same time, I don't want a girl to get there to begin with. So especially with younger audiences, I try to kind of avoid it, and especially if it's just not a setting for me to get super detailed or graphic, then I try to be wary. But it's something that I'm very comfortable talking about.
I'm grateful you're talking about it.
Thanks.
I think I've mentioned this on the podcast once before with Ashley's permission.
Sure.
Obviously, my daughter's going through it right now. And she's doing much, much better, everyone. FYI. Doing much better. But it's something I was not educated at all about how scary it is.
Yeah.
And how deadly it is. And so you're fortunate, and at the same time, you're given this wonderful platform to share with the world how you might want to help change the narrative about health.
Yeah.
So what's that look like? What do you want to do as Miss Texas? And maybe what do you hope to do as Miss America with your platform?
Yes. Well, as Miss Texas and as a local title holder even, I've been super privileged to partner with an organization called Healthier Texas, and they take more of that, whole person wellness, holistic approach. It's not eating disorder specific, but they have the most phenomenal resources that you can get online and talk to a health coach for free. They have a ton of educational resources. They have in-person events and classes once a year. And last year I got to attend their Healthier Texas Summit. And I ended up, what started as a social media interview somehow worked its way up to the CEO. And I ended up getting to share my story with a ton of healthcare professionals. And so the term that you and I have found together that kind of demonstrates what this year looks like for me is that I am uniquely placed to be that bridge, I think, between that healthcare field that has the resources and they have the people and the things that can help, and then the people that need it. Right now, there's, I think, a gap that is unfortunately widening just with misinformation online between the resources that are available to people and the people that need them. And so I get to kind of be that bridge, which is really cool. But beyond that, as we're expanding, I get to partner with the American Heart Association, which, eating disorders and heart disease or heart events are very correlated. And so getting to step into that space is really cool. I'm hoping I'll be able to partner with NEDA and the Alliance Force, which are more eating disorder specific, and their national platforms. So those are kind of where I'm toeing into right now. I'm fresh in the role of Miss Texas, but a lot of things are in the works, which is cool.
So if you'll have any ideas, feel free to send them her way. Okay. I always ask some similar questions, and one of them has to do with advice.
Yes.
So if you can think about, you've been given a ton of advice in your life.
So much.
And so what's a piece of advice that you feel like has made the biggest impact on you? And it can be more than one.
I'm going to say something and it might sound crazy.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out how to word it concisely. Emotions are helpful and they are important, and we should listen to and tend to them, but they should not be making big life decisions and they should not guide our actions. I think in that year that I got to go attend the gap year through, it's called Link Year through Kanakuk Ministries. Unfortunately, I was one of the last classes, so
they're not doing it anymore.
Hopefully y'all can maybe help me find somewhere to point people that have a similar experience. But while I was there, it was the question of, know what you believe and why you believe it. And once I was able to kind of define that and logically think through what do I want my life to look like, I think now it's so much easier to have a game plan and to make choices about my life that I know are not only beneficial to me, but put me closer to the goals that I'm working towards. And I can listen to my emotions, and I take care of them a lot. But I know from experience that when I let them, quote unquote, drive the bus, it lands me in danger. Yeah. So they can be a backseat driver. We'll listen, but we're not going to let them drive. And that kind of probably feels like a weird piece of advice, especially from, I don't know, a pageant girl. I think that emotions are very much a play in my role, and trust, I feel them all the time. But I think that, using your platform and knowing that we have an impact on people's lives, let's acknowledge the emotions and know they're important, but I also don't want you chained by them.
Well, there's this whole idea of, follow your heart. Yeah. And I'm like, your head needs to be included in the discussion. Like we need to kind of, hello. Because your heart can lead you in all kinds of interesting predicaments. I've been there. I was young once. And so I love that. I think that's so important. I think we should think about our emotions. Our emotions are there for a reason, but they should not control every decision that we make. So I think that's super smart.
Another way I've heard it worded is emotions are like children. You listen to them, you tend to them. You don't let them make the family decisions. And it's like, okay, we love children. We love children.
I think emotions also lie to us sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that, maybe we don't put them in control.
Yeah, I agree.
I like it. What are you looking forward to with competition?
Honestly, I'm so excited to meet the other state title holders. I grew up, my mom had Miss America reunions at our house, and these are girls that she's been able to call for help or advice, or if we're traveling to a different state, what should we do here or there? This is a random one, and I don't even remember which woman it was, which state, but there was one commercial. I want to say she was like the ambassador or the face of like a gum commercial.
Okay.
And every time we saw that gum, she'd be like, oh, my Miss America sister. And so it's just like little moments and memories like that I'm now, on this side of it, knowing I'm about to go make those friendships that'll be around for the rest of my life is really, really cool. So that's kind of my almost sweet personal answer. I think strategically or from a place of being an advocate, it just is a national platform, right? And knowing that there are so many girls that look to it, A, is slightly intimidating sometimes, but I think appropriately intimidating. But B, just getting to step into a role that I had always looked up to as a child, knowing that as a child I needed somebody to be talking about what I am talking about. And so getting to meet all the little girls, getting to meet the people that look up to the crown or the title, and knowing that there's a very personal impact that I can be making is really cool.
So you care about the children, you care about the schools.
Yes.
So how do people book you? Like if someone's watching that's like, oh my gosh, I want Sadie to come to my school or to my classroom. How does that work?
The easiest way for me to communicate that here is to look up misstexas.org. That's our, organization webpage. And there is a tab in there that says Book Miss Texas. At this current moment, I actually think it might still be the picture of the former Miss Texas, but trust that the link still works and it'll be me. So it's a really cool, it's easy. You click it, it takes you to a Google Jot form. And you just fill out a request for, the date, the time, what do you want me to be doing there, whether it's a school appearance or a corporate event or, just come and hang out with us at a parade, whatever it is. It's really easy. That goes to my business manager and director, and they make sure that I can be as present as possible.
I love it. Okay, so are you looking forward to the Rattlesnake Roundup? I'm just curious.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Well, yes. I think I need more details about protective gear and all the things to really assure me.
So for those of you who don't know, Miss Texas every single year, and I tend to ask y'all about this every single, we'll come back at some point and we'll talk about it. But every single year you get invited to be part of the rattlesnake roundup. Now, why they round up all the rattlesnakes, I don't know. You'll have to tell me later.
Okay.
But thousands of rattlesnakes, and you wind up in a pit with all of them.
Well, and Miss Texas, this has been a very historic appearance for Miss Texas, but I don't think, was Danae?
She was the first one, I think.
Yeah, so it wasn't until 2012 that it became a tradition that Miss Texas stands in the pit of rattlesnakes. Yes. And so that's the piece where I'm like, I am just thrilled. Again, I've always looked up to Miss Texas, and so there are certain experiences like the Rattlesnake Roundup where I just am like, I can't believe it's me now. I can't believe I get to do this now. And then I start thinking about them a little more rationally, and I'm like, well, do I have protective boots on? Like, what's the game plan here? But I'm thrilled to do it.
We'll have to check and see if we're right on the date of when they first started, because I'm really curious how many Miss Texas have done it. I think they should do a montage of all of the different videos of all of the girls.
Yeah.
I just think that
I'll try.
I'll
try to round up that footage.
That would round it up.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. What advice would you give to someone who wants to compete?
Just go for it. And lovingly, don't be afraid to be embarrassed. I think that's where you grow the most. That's something we laugh about. But I think once you free yourself up from the feeling that you have to do it perfectly is when you actually start to really thrive and gain something from the organization, whether or not you win the crown. I think this is silly, but my very first pageant, I was a teenager, and they asked us 2 onstage questions. Respectfully, I don't know why they did that, but I remember the first one was about Harry Potter and what house I was in. And I never had, like, practiced, I guess, like, a fluff question is the way that I would put it. And I felt so silly up there, but just, like, owned with confidence. I am a Hufflepuff and blah, 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 and whatever. And I remember the audience laughing. And in the moment, I was like, gosh, darn it, that sounded dumb, you know? And then afterwards, like, I still have people in my corner that talk about that to this day, because it was, I mean, I'm not a teenager anymore, so I don't know how well that my answers would have flown now, but as a teenager, it was cute, you know? Yeah. And so when you do the thing with confidence, or here's a better example, I tripped like 4 times on stage during finals this year at Miss Texas. Mm-hmm. I did. And it wasn't like a cute little trip. It was like a really intense trip.
Was it in your gown?
So I like kind of stumbled a little bit as I was walking on stage, because we had to walk over a step as we were getting on stage in our gowns. And my gown does not step well. If you watch it back, you'll notice I'm one of, I think, 3 girls that never goes on the platform in my gown because I couldn't take a step upstairs. Anyways, so that was like a cute little stumble. Whatever. On the, what is it called? A runway? On the runway, I like heard gasps from the audience next to me because they thought I was going to fall off. Like, it was not a cute stumble. It was, I tripped bad. And I just,
you were behind the judges by that point, probably.
Yes. In the moment, I was just kind of like, you know what? Again, as a Christian, as a believer, I just fully believed if this is meant for me, it's going to happen. Betty Cantrell lost an earring on stage, or I think, was it Sadie Shields didn't even finish her on-stage question. Like, there were Miss Americas that I looked up to that didn't do it perfectly. Love y'all, sorry. But they didn't do it perfectly. And I admired that. And so on stage, I was just like, whatever, it's fine. And later that night, I got an opportunity to speak with the judges, and they loved the fact that I tripped. They were like, oh, it was so human. We loved it. And so I think that's another example of, you know, if you do something embarrassing or if you do something not the way that you hoped, just do it with confidence, and it's honestly endearing.
It's only embarrassing if you choose to be embarrassed.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Because don't we all make mistakes every single day?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean.
Yeah. So,
and your judges don't want you to be perfect.
Yeah.
They prefer that you not try to be perfect because it's not even relatable. So.
Yep.
Here's to not being perfect. Here's to health. Here's to Sadie. All right. How does everybody follow you?
On Instagram, if you want to follow my pageant page, it's Miss America TX. And then my personal page on Instagram and TikTok is Sadie Catherine S. So
awesome.
Just look at my name.
And if you want to learn more about Sadie, join the She Wins Solutions for Pageantry Patreon page, because I'm going to pick her brain a little bit more, get some tips and tricks for those of you who want to compete in pageants.